Hello everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Michael. Today I'm going to be making a pumpkin pie and we're going to start out with our pie pan. I've got a 9-inch deep pie pan here, and for that we're going to be making our crust. Now you can buy the store-bought crust if you want to, but if you're making the homemade pies, try making the homemade pie crust. It's not hard. I've got a video that I'll put a link in the description box below of how to make that. And I've already pre-made this one and I just pulled it out of the refrigerator, and I'm going to go ahead now and get it into my pie pan and ready to be blind baked. So I've got a silicone mat here and I just went and grabbed some flour, and I'm going to put some of the flour on my mat here so that my pie dough doesn't stick to it. And I'm just going to lightly dust that just like that. And I'm going to put some on my rolling pin as well. And then I'm going to take my pie dough here that I have had in the refrigerator, and I'm going to put that out here on this silicone mat. And with that, we'll put a little bit of flour on the top. And we're going to take our rolling pin, and on this silicone mat that I've got here, it measures out to be 12 inches. So with our 9-inch pie pan, we want it to be at least 2 inches on each side. So just a little over 12 inches will fill our 9-inch pie pan with our homemade pie dough here. So let's go ahead and get that started. So we're going to roll this out, and the key to this is just keep it moving. Do not stop moving it. I've got probably just a little bit too much flour here, but that's okay. We'll get that off. And so we're going to turn it over on the other side. And then you want to turn it again at a 90-degree angle and just keep moving your pie dough out until you get your circle the size that you need for your pie pan. All right, that looks good now. It didn't take much effort to do that. And to get that into my pan, I'm going to take one of the edges here and I'm going to roll it up on my rolling pin. We want to roll it up just like that. You're going to take your pie pan and you're going to roll it out over the top of it. Now that we've got that, it's kind of stretched over the top. You do not want to be pushing down into it. You want to pull it up on the sides here and just kind of let it fall down into it. We do not want to stretch this dough. We've got it to the shape that we want it and to the thickness that we want it. So just kind of inch it down into our pie pan, and you can see I've got that inched into that like that. I've kind of got it evenly spaced. All right, so now that we got that in there, if you've got some places in it that need a little bit of touching, you can definitely touch that up just a little bit, just like that. That disappears. If you've got some cracks in it, you can definitely fill those up. I don't see any on this one here, so it looks like I've got a good pie crust on that one. And now that I've got my dough down into the pan here, I'm going to take this, and if you've got some kitchen shears, you can do that, or you can just pull this off with your hand. We want to leave about 1 inch on the sides here so we can turn it under and give it that nice crimping on the sides. All right, now that I've got the excess trimmed off of my pie dough here, we'll put that away. We won't be using that. And what we're going to do now is you just want to take it and just roll the ends up under itself so that you get a nice smooth edge on that. And if you get any cracks that form in it, like this one here kind of cracked just a little bit, you just take your finger and just press it down and it'll go right back together again. All right, so I've got my pie shell now on the top here, all pinched in on the top, and that can be cooked just like that if you want to, or we can take it to the next level and put that little bit of fluting on there. So you're going to take your index of one finger and your thumb of your index, and you're just going to kind of push together like that, and that will create those nice flutings around the top, and we'll go all the way around the top and do it just like that. All right, now that we've got the fluting on our pie here, I'm going to get ready now to blind bake this, and I'm going to put this in the freezer, and we'll put it in there for 15 minutes because this has been sitting at room temperature with your dough so that you can roll it out. And with the heat and the friction from your rolling pan there, we want the butter to get set back up in that. So I've got the actual cling film that I had wrapped around it earlier, and I'm just going to put this over the top of it just like that because I don't want that to dry out while it's in there in the freezer. So 15 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and turn my oven on to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, or that's about 220 degrees Celsius, and let that be preheating so that we can get this ready to go. I am back. It's been 15 minutes now, and I just pulled my pie shell out of the freezer, and we can take our cling film off the top now, and you can see that that has set back up again. That is nice and firm. So now what we're going to do is we're going to blind bake this, and what that means is we're going to bake this before we put our pumpkin pie filling into it, and that way the shell on the outside doesn't sink down into it. If you've never done that before and you've had those pie shells that sink down in there, that's what that is. We want to bake this, and we want to put enough resistance around the sides and the bottom to keep that the shape that it's in. Now if you've got a store-bought one, you do not have to blind bake it, so you can skip this process here, and then you can pick back up where we start making our ingredients for our pie filling on that. So if you're making one from scratch like that, you'll need to blind bake it. So to get started with that, I've got just a piece of parchment paper here, And I'm just going to kind of wad that up. And you want that to be big enough so that it is going to sit down in there all the way around it and come up on the sides of it. So I'm going to crinkle this up. It'll just make it easier for it to go in there that way. All right, so now that we've done that, we can put that down into our pie shell, and we want to be really careful with it. Even though we've got it frozen, we still don't want to disturb it a lot. And if it's too much on the sides, you can take some scissors and cut that off. All right, now that we've got our parchment paper, now I'm going to take the same for this aluminum foil that I've got here, and I'm going to put that inside of that, so I'm going to crinkle that up as well. Now, once you've done that and use this, you can reuse this over and over and over again. I just had a fresh piece today to show you how to take care of that. What you want to do is do the same thing that you did with your parchment paper and kind of push that down into there so that it conforms to that shape of that pan. And that just creates a barrier between the parchment paper and what we're going to be using now is our medium to bake our pie shell. So I have some ceramic little balls here that I've got. And each one of these little boxes has a pan in it. They look just like that. I'll show you what that looks like. If you don't have these, you can definitely use dry beans. If you've got at least 2 pounds of dry beans, you can put that in there. But I've got these. If you're going to be making a lot of pie shells in the future, you can definitely give these a try and see. You'll be able to use these over and over and over again. So with this deep dish, I'm going to be using 2 of these boxes that I've got here, and I'm going to go ahead and put the second box in. Now we've got that almost to the top here, so we want to spread this out. And we want to make sure that we get all the way to the edges here so that it holds that pie shell against that wall. So just by moving them out like that, and you can see where the top of your pie dough is right here on the sides, just kind of move that out so that we've got that resistance on the side. All right, now that we've got that all done, we're going to put this into that preheated 425 degree Fahrenheit or roughly about 220 degrees Celsius, and we're going to bake this for 15 minutes, and we're going to take it out and we'll come back and we'll go on to our next step. We're not quite finished with this yet. I just pulled my pie shell out of the oven, and now we're going to move on to our next step. So we want to be really careful with this point because these are going to be really, really hot. So use caution when you pull these out. And I've got a colander here that I'm going to put these in. You definitely want something that you can put them in because you don't want these flying all over the kitchen floor. All right, so our pie shell looks really good now, and it is set. We didn't see any of those walls sagging down on that. That's exactly what we wanted to do. Now we want to take note of the edge of the top of the pie shell there. If it's getting a little brown, you can take some aluminum foil when we get ready to put it back in the oven again. And what you want to do at that point is just tint over the top of it, and that'll protect the top of it so that it doesn't get brown on the top before we get ready to put our ingredients in it. So now I've got 1 egg, and we'll take that, I'm just going to beat that, and we're going to put just a little bit of an egg wash on the inside of our pie shell. That egg beat up like that, we're going to take a brush. And this is just a brusher that I normally use if I'm putting on any kind of sauces and things. And we're going to brush the inside of that pie shell. And because this is a pumpkin pie, kind of like a custard type pie, we definitely want to add another barrier to that pie wall there to make sure we don't get a soggy pie, because we definitely don't want that. That's why we cooked this originally, so we don't get those walls sagging in. And when we put that custard of that pumpkin filling in there, we definitely don't want that soaking through to give us a soggy pie. So just paint the inside of it. I'm not going to paint the top of it because I don't want that to get any browner before I get ready to put the other ingredients in it. And to make sure you get all those surfaces covered on the inside and the bottom. All right, now that we've got those surfaces covered with the egg, we're going to take that fork we got and we're just going to pierce some holes in the bottom of it. And that way that's going to keep that from bubbling up on it. We definitely don't want that. We've got a nice, smooth, flat pie bottom on it now. And we're going to put just a few holes in the bottom of it, and that will help that keep from popping up on us. All right, that's ready to go back into the oven now. You still got that 425 degree Fahrenheit or roughly around 220 degrees Celsius. I'm going to put this back in that oven, and we're going to bake this for 5 minutes, and we want that just for the walls and that bottom of it to set, because right now it is really soft, and you definitely don't want that before we put our other ingredients in there. So 5 to 7 minutes, take a look at it, and it's like you say, if you want to put the tinting around the top of it, you can do that now. That'll keep that outside top of that crust from getting really brown. I'll see you back when this is done. All right, I've got my pie shell out in the oven now. That's really looking good. I did go ahead and tint the top of that because I didn't want that any browner than what it already is at this point until I get my filling put in there. So I'm going to set this aside, and with our ingredients, I've got some eggs and some milk. You want those up to room temperature. So while you're baking your pie crust the first time around, you can definitely get your ingredients out and get those ready to go and have those coming up to room temperature. Now you can definitely make this a day ahead of time if you're pressed for time, you can do that. You can bake your pie shell, put it in the refrigerator, just put some cling film around it, or you can put it in some type of a baggie or something. That way it doesn't dry out in the refrigerator. So I'm going to put this to the side. We're going to get ready with our other ingredients, and we'll move on now to our pie filling for our pumpkin pie. I've got my pie shell ready to go, and if you bought the store-bought pie shell, then we'll start from here with that. So I've got a bowl here, and I'm going to start with my ingredients. I've got 1 cup of packed brown sugar, or that's 200 grams, and we'll add that to our bowl. I've got 1 can of pure pumpkin that is 15 ounces or 425 grams, and we'll add that to the bowl. Now for my spices, I've got 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon. We'll add that in. I've got 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. This is 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I've got 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg and 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves. And I'm just going to kind of give that a little bit of a mix through. Now I've got 3 room temperature eggs, and I'm going to break this in this bowl to make sure that I've got 3 good ones and I don't want any of the eggshell in that. And we'll add those in individually. I've got a good egg there. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Get my whisk and break that up, and we'll kind of mix together just like that. And I'll check my other 2. And remember, those eggs are room temperature eggs. So now I've got 1/2 cup of milk and 1 cup of heavy cream, and I'm going to add that in. And this is room temperature also. All right, we'll give that all a good mix through until everything comes together and it is nice and smooth. And now my last ingredient here, I've got 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and that's my homemade vanilla extract. If you haven't seen that video on how that's made, I'll put the link in the description box below. It is really easy to do, and it makes great gifts and things if you're looking to find something for somebody that has everything as a cook in the kitchen. So get that mixed together, and then we're going to get ready to pour that into our pie shell. All right, I've got all of that mixed together now, and I'm going to pour this into my pie shell. All right, now that we've got our ingredients in our pie, there's a few little air pockets on there. I did tap it on the counter here because you want to make sure that you get all the air pockets out of there, and some of them came to the top. I'm just going to take the side of the top of the whisk handle here and just run across there and just pop those little air bubbles that are on the surface. That way you'll get that even, nice, flat surface on that. All right, I've got the bubbles removed off the top of it. Now that's completely optional if you don't want to do that. I like how it comes out smooth when it comes out of the oven. So I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or that's about 175 degrees Celsius, and I've got it on a tray. And what I want to do with that is just make sure that I get even cooking on that. Anytime I put a pie or anything in the oven like that, I always put another surface below it. That way it's not getting that direct heat from it, and it gives an opportunity for the pie to cook evenly throughout. And so we're going to check on this in about 50 to 60 minutes. Start checking on it a little bit sooner, and you'll be able to tell when it sets up. You want it to set. You don't want it to be really runny, but the middle should jiggle just a little bit, and once you pull it out of the oven, it will continue to set up on its own. You don't want to overcook it. Because this is a deep dish pie, we're going to let this cook between 1 hour and 20 and 1 hour and 30 minutes. If you cook it too long, then it'll kind of get hard and dense on you. So we'll check on it. I'll let you see what this looks like. My pumpkin pie is done. It did cook for 1 hour 25 minutes, and I did set an initial clock of 20 minutes for a timer on that. And after the 20 minutes, I came in and tinted it because I didn't want the pie crust on the top there to get really dark on that to cook before the rest of the pie did. So I did tint it, and then I let it sit in there till about 1 hour and 15 minutes, and then I pulled off the foil to let it brown on the outside of it. So now we have to let this sit and set up. With doing that, it needs to sit for a minimum of 2 hours. If not better, if you've got time, let it sit overnight would be even better for that. So we'll come back when this is set up and cool down, and we'll give it a cut and let you see what it looks like. Well, my pie has cooled down, and as you can see here, I've got me a delicious piece of pumpkin pie. This could not look any better, and I got a little bit of whipped cream on the top of it, and I did use my whipped cream dispenser. I've got a video on my channel. If you've never seen how this works, go check that out. I'll put the link in the description box below. It's very easy to use and charge. It's got multiple uses, and you don't have to worry about whipping something up when you can use that. That works fantastic, and you know what's in it because you put in it when you made it. So looking at our pie here, it's got that nice aromatic smell of the pumpkin pie, and we've got that nice deep dish on that, so we've got a really nice slice on that. Let's cut into this and see what we've got. Nice firm crust on the bottom of it. I'm going to take me a little bit of dollop of this whipped cream here on the top. Nothing better than homemade pumpkin pie. It really beats what you can get in the store. And that crust is really flaky and firm on the bottom of that. If you've never made a pumpkin pie or a homemade crust before, follow this recipe and you will have you a nice dessert for those upcoming holidays or for whenever you want one. They sell that canned pumpkin year-round, so you can make this year-round if you really want it. If you like this content, maybe you might consider giving me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And while you're at it, check out one of these other 2 videos over here on the side. You might find something else you like. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Try this recipe. I know you're going to love this homemade pumpkin pie. I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye now.